What's going on? GPS talk. Look at GPS. This isn't the one I'm really going to focus on. That's not the one I'm doing this video for, but I am going to talk about that. A few days ago, the Noob Hiker commented on the hiking the loop around Lackawanna, and in that comment asked the question, curious about the watch you wear. I've heard you talk about it, have seen it on your prior videos, but in this video it took more of notice to it. What is it? So I'm gonna talk about that, and I've got it right here. I'm not wearing it because it's easier to show you if I'm not wearing it. Got the watch right here, and I'm gonna give you some information on that, how I got there, and kind of the importance of GPS, and just kind of blab a little. I'm gonna blab a little. So what is this? What is this watch? This is where I currently am in my state of GPS and tracking. This is the Garmin Venue 2. Now, Garmin makes an insane amount of watches, and this is my computer screen here. I got all the information here, so I keep on looking over there. That's why. So the Garmin Venue 2, they make an insane amount of watches, everything from simple fitness trackers all the way up to like expedition quality watches that, with the technology they use with solar and like kinetic charging and the display they use, can last like indefinitely. They're insanely expensive, but really cool. If you're going to do something really big, it might not be a bad purchase. But I wanted something I could wear as a normal watch, kind of smart, but, and this was the key for me, had to have built-in GPS. So I'm going to give you the specs on this. I'm going to run it down pretty quickly, and because there's a lot, there's pages of specs here in this watch. So like I said, this is the Garmin Venue 2. General specs, it's got a silicone band, it's got Corning Gorilla Glass 3, so it's pretty strong. The bezel is stainless steel, the body is reinforced, fiber reinforced polymer. It's got quick release bands, so you can change these out really easily and really quickly. It's a 45.4 by 45.4 by 12 millimeter body. So it's like a medium, I'm not sure if that's big or small, I don't know, it's a watch. It's bigger than my old one. It's 49 grams. The display size is 1.3 inches with 416 pixels of resolution. It's a color display, it's touchscreen, and here's the crazy stuff with this, with the battery life. And I can confirm these hours are maybe low, but I guess everyone, will vary. But my numbers have been a little bit better than this in some cases. In just smartwatch mode, so just using it as a watch, up to 11 days of battery confirmed. I've probably gotten a full 2 weeks out of mine. Battery saver smartwatch mode, up to 12 days. Couldn't tell you. I've only used battery saver mode when it's down to like 2%, and I'm not gonna be home for like a few hours. It will still run on a couple percent. GPS mode with music, up to 8 hours, so you can load music on this, connect your earbuds, and listen to music off of it. That uses up the most battery. And in just GPS mode without music, up to 22 hours, and I can confirm that. It uses the Garmin proprietary, it's like a 4 pogo pin kind of a thing here down at the bottom, and it's a USB cable. It goes to USB-A. It's got 8 gigabytes of storage. I don't really store anything on it, so I guess that's fantastic. It's an AMOLED display, which helps with the battery life. So the only pixels in an AMOLED that light up are the pixels that are needed, and the black pixels just don't light up. That's how that works. And it is water resistant. They call it swim rated, so you can swim and do some light diving with it. You can use it with Garmin Pay as well. You can like load your wallet. I don't need it for that kind of stuff. The clock does have the features of obviously time, date, GPS time sync, automatic daylight savings time, alarm clock, timer, stopwatch, and sunrise, sunset times. and then it's got a whole slew of health and wellness monitoring. So I'll go through these because these are important to a lot of people, and these are things you may not get on a normal smartwatch. Not from Boston. Smartwatch. Wristband or wrist-based heart rate, daily resting heart rate, abnormal heart rate alerts, respiration rate, fitness age, body battery, energy monitor, all-day stress, relaxation reminder, relaxation breathing timer, breath work, sleep, advanced sleep mode. So it'll tell you when you have light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, if you move, if you are awake, what your heart rate is, what your breath rate is, all when you're sleeping. Of course, you gotta be wearing a watch for that. Hydration, women's health, and health snapshot. The sensors it has are GPS, GLONASS, Galileo. So those are all GPS, global positioning sensor satellites. Garmin Elevate wrist health rate monitor, pulse ox blood oxygen saturation monitor, barometric altimeter, a compass, a gyroscope, accelerometer, thermometer, ambient light sensor. Now the thermometer is great, but it kind of just gets the temperature at your wrist. If you want to use it as an actual thermometer, you got to hang it up somewhere, which you can do. But if you're trying to get sleep data, then it's at night. You want to see what the low temperature is. You either need another thermometer or you need to not have your sleep data. Then there's a bunch of smart features like connectivity and smart notifications for different apps, different activity profiles for gym and wellness and indoor running and all that kind of stuff. Safety and tracking features like incident detection for your phone or wearables on wrist, assistance, and a pared down version of Garmin's Live Track. So like if you have a Garmin InReach or InReach Mini or something like that, or if you have a Spot, it's a similar system. There's a couple different ones like that. But this can track you and then send the data to a Live Track page where select people can be notified and watch your progress. The catch with the watch is that you need your phone, and your phone has to have signal. That's why it's pared down. It's not doesn't use GPS, so it's free to use, but you have to use your phone and you have to have signal. Now, in the future, as phones get smarter, as phones get smarter, and they start to introduce GPS connectivity to the chips in the phones, I don't know if you'll be able to sync data like that. It would be cool if you could. So it's a possibility, but no guarantee on it. There's gaming features, gaming activity, and game on app compatible. I don't know what those are. I'm not big into gaming. And then a bunch of activities built into it. Tracking for step counter, move alerts, auto goal, calories, floors climbed, distance traveled, intensity minutes, true up, I forget what that is, move IQ, and it connects to the Garmin Connect app and service with all their challenges. And then you got like gym and fitness modes, you've got training, planning, and analysis features, you've got running features, you got golfing features, you've got outdoor recreation features, cycling features, swimming features, and kid activity tracking features. Plus, through their Connect IQ store, there's like, I don't know, maybe a couple thousand apps you can download this. So if any of that stuff isn't what you're looking for, you could probably download it, including watch faces and all kinds of stuff. The watch has a lot going for it. So that's the watch. But how did I come to this? With all the other options out there, how did I come to this? So it started long ago. Okay, 2001, I think I got my first standalone GPS. Before that, it was just paper maps and compass. That was it. I was much better with a compass back then. This isn't my first one. This is my second one. But my first one was an eTrex. I think it was a eTrex 10 or 15 or 20 or something like that. This is an eTrex 30. It was a little bit bigger than this. It was like that clear blue, opaque blue plastic, so you could see inside of it. And it was really simple. I think it had a joystick like this one, maybe a couple buttons, just a plain LCD screen like this one. Super basic, but it gave me all the information I wanted and needed. I could set waypoints, I could watch where I'm going, I could download maps to it, although it was a little bit of a pain back then because USB wasn't great. That weird connectivity, I had this weird pogo pin that slid into a slot in the back and it wouldn't charge anything. It could only transfer data. So all your tracks lived on the device. There was no SD card for that. I think you could upload maps through an SD card, but you couldn't pull tracks off. It was a little bit of a disaster, but I mean it worked. I found that was super helpful when I moved to Florida. I was doing a kayaking trip in the Canaveral National Seashore. I waypointed my campsite, which I don't usually do. Something that was like a waypoint it, just playing around with it, set a waypoint, got in the kayak to do some night kayaking. Now my campsite was on an island, and I don't know if Canaveral still does this, but they used to have, I don't know, something like 20 campsites in the National Seashore that you could get a permit for. Most of them were on their own little island, which was awesome. So I get a permit and kayak out there. So this one night I go out, I start paddling around. I didn't really pay attention to the tide. I wasn't really thinking about it. And when I got in the water, it was dark. I had a headlamp just so I had a little bit of light in case anybody else was out, but I was in mangroves, so I wasn't too worried about it. And I started hearing the sonar of a dolphin echoing off the bottom of my kayak, and I was fascinated. I'd never heard that before. It was quiet. The water wasn't really moving much. It's pretty still water down there anyway, but I could hear the dolphin, and then I could hear it out in the distance breaching, and then it got close enough I could see it, and I was watching it. I was mesmerized. I wasn't paying attention. Tide went out. Now that's part of the Indian River, goes through Canaveral into Mosquito Lagoon. So when the tide goes out, the river goes out. And I was not paying attention. I started getting pulled south down the river. And by the time I realized, I've moved pretty far, because usually don't move too far in Florida. If you're just sitting, you'll drift, but you won't go miles like I did. And I thought, I gotta get back to camp. So I turned, I started heading back the way I thought I came, but the water level had dropped enough that I couldn't get back into that channel. So I had to go around these mangroves and find other channels to get through. My headlamp was dying, and luckily I did waypoint my campsite. I was able to pull it up on a GPS and find my way through. If I didn't have the GPS, I would have had to find an island that I could pull up on that nobody was in, and then sleep in my kayak. Now it was Florida, so it was warm, it wouldn't have been an issue, but it would have been really uncomfortable. So from that point on, I was like, GPS is really important. You can't rely on it solely, but when all else fails. So I came back from Florida. That eTrex was just outdated, and the way that you had to get the data off of it, and I think the cable was starting to go. So I upgraded to this eTrex 30, which is very similar. It's like their base model. GPS, it doesn't do messaging, any of that stuff. It's just a GPS. I used this for a couple of years, and then I dropped it. I was in the Catskills. I dropped my pack and bushwhacked up to a summit using the GPS and a paper map, and then I came back down. I kind of rolled my foot at one point up on the summit, and I pinched my big toe between two rocks, and I thought I might have broken it. So when I came back down, I knew there was a vista about 200 yards away. So I'm going to sit down at the vista. I'm going to stop for break, take my shoes off, check my foot, and see if I need to turn around and go back. I didn't want to, but so this GPS has like a leather case, and there's a carabiner on it, and I just clipped it onto the chest strap of my backpack. And when I got to the vista, I undid the belt, and I undid the chest strap, and this just went boom, and it popped off, flew about 5 feet, hit the freaking rock of the vista, bounced up in the air, and went right over. And I thought, oh crap, I just lost my GPS. That sucks. And I looked over, and there was like a little shelf below there, and it was sitting on that shelf. And I could get down to it. It wasn't dangerous to get down to it. I was able to get down to it. So I got the GPS back. It was working, no problem. I came home, and for whatever reason, so on this one, it's got like a USB mini right back there, which isn't great by today's standards, but it's an old GPS. And I plugged into the computer to get my GPS track off. Nothing. Tried a different cable. Nothing. Tried on a different computer. Nothing. And I thought, well, it fell, something got broken inside, and I can't get anything off of it. So I stopped using it. Turns out a couple of years later, I plugged it in and it works fine again. I don't know why. I don't know what happened there, but it works fine again. So I started using my phone, which I'm recording with, but here's my old phone. So my old Pixel right here. I start using my phone, and I noticed a couple things about GPS on a phone. One of the things about having a GPS that I really like, and one of the ways I hike, is I like data. I like looking at why am I shaking my phone at you? I like seeing the elevation gain. I like seeing which way the trail's going, so I can judge, especially on a long hike. I like seeing if I'm going up and over mountains, if I'm going down into ravines, if it's steep, if it's shallow, if it's on the side of a hill. It helps me plan out how fast I need to go, how far I can go. And if you've watched any of my longer hiking videos, like the Guiana Trail, something like that, there'll be a part where I'm kind of complaining about the mapping. Usually there's a 5 or 10 minute rant that I cut out of those videos because I'm like, why can't they map? Because to me, that stuff's important. And what I found with phones is the GPS isn't so accurate. And if you're off a little bit, that's one thing. But if you're off by a lot, it can cause some problems. More importantly for me with the phone was the tracking after the fact. So just looking at the track, you're looking from top down, you're looking at your GPS track. That was usually pretty close. There may be some spots where it kind of darted off here and there. It was the elevation, which then affects the mileage too. So let's say I was walking on a rail trail and I'm going 2 miles and there's 10 feet of elevation change between, in that 2 miles. And I look at the track and it's going along nice and flat, and all of a sudden it drops down to 0 and back up, and it drops down to 0. It just would drop information. And it wasn't just one phone. It was every phone I tried it with. I mean, Androids, I've never been an iPhone guy, but I've heard people having the same problems with iPhones where the GPS tracking is just bleh. So, and on top of that, phones are pretty fragile. I mean, now most of the time you get them and they're waterproof. That wasn't always the case. And I've lately grazed my leg with my phone, like picking it up on the sofa and kind of scooping it up and kind of catching my leg a little bit, just like a little bit of a tap, and blowing the screen out of a phone. I just had my one Pixel just murdered it, touching my leg. It can happen. So I don't like to rely on my phone. Plus it kills the battery. Then you're charging your phone more, which you're killing your battery bank. So I start looking at watches. I thought maybe I'll start using my GPS again, but I wanted something that was more hands-free. I could still look at easily. A watch that's perfect for. All I gotta do is look at my watch. I see my mileage, I see my elevation, I can see my heart rate, I can see all kinds of information, and with a couple quick swipes on the watch face, I've got all that information. So I start looking at, because I have an Android phone, I start looking at Android smartwatches. Battery life was horrible. And usually, and that's exacerbated by the fact that a lot of those watches don't have a GPS transmitter built into them. So what happens with those a lot of times, not saying all smartwatches, but a lot of times, the phone has to Bluetooth connect to your phone has to Bluetooth connect to your watch. The watch then has to request GPS data from your phone, which then has to send it back to the watch. And they got these back and forth communications. And then where's that data wind up going anyway? Back to your phone. So it's sending information back and forth from your watch to your phone, and it's just killing your battery. And you're getting the same unreliable GPS that your phone can give you. You're killing your watch battery. You're killing your, basically it's just a remote screen at that point. You're killing your phone battery, you're killing your watch battery. And I can tell you from having done cable for so long and done internet so long, that constant transmission like that between two devices will eventually burn out those antennas. The receivers and the transmitter, it'll burn them out. They'll just stop working. So you're just wearing everything out to do something that a watch should be able to do. And looking at those watches, like their big claim to battery life was like, we get 24 hours out of our watch if you're barely using it. That's garbage. That's might be good for a phone, garbage for a watch. So the first watch I got, I looked and decided, you know what, I trust the Garmin GPSs, I'm gonna go with Garmin watch. And this is the first one I got. And I just charged this one up so I could show it. This is the Garmin Vivoactive 3. When I bought this, now I wasn't sure if I was gonna like the GPS watch, and it's got the sensors and everything on the back, but I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it, so I didn't want to spend a ton of money. So this was, I'm in altitude, there we go. So this was, and that's what the screen looks like. It's always on, it's not AMOLED, it's like a color LED, I think. But it's really, it sips the battery. So it's not the clearest, it's not the brightest, but it does its job. So I got this, it was 3 years old, the model, not the watch, and the watch is brand new, but it was a 3-year-old model, and I don't think they were gonna make any more. So I got it really cheap. And I got it, and this doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the new one does, but it had the important things I wanted. It had a standalone GPS, and it had some smartwatch features to it. I don't need anything crazy. I don't care if I can make phone calls with it, or I don't care if I can listen to music on it. It's a watch. So it doesn't have any of that, which is fine. But it got me into that ecosystem. It got me into this kind of a form factor for my GPS, and I fell in love with it. Accurate. It can get squirrely in some spots. When I was in the Grand Canyon, some of those canyons are really narrow or really high walls, and it had a hard time locking on the GPS, but I think anything would in there. You could barely see the sky, so the GPS needs to be able to see the sky to get its GPS. That was really the only place I've had a problem with it. Every once in a while, if I was hiking with somebody else and they were using either their phone or their GPS, you're gonna have differences in the mileage, and it's usually not that much, but it would be exactly a mile. Exactly a mile. With Adam Z, it happened a couple times, and I think he has an InReach. Yeah, he has a Garmin InReach, and we get to Vermont. Over the one day, we were exactly a mile off, and it happened again on another trip, and it happened, I think, with Dragon. We were exactly a mile off. But when I put this against mileage that I know from a map, or that I'm getting from a map book, and it's spot on with that, it's maybe a glitch, but I trust what this tells me more often, just because it's been wrong so little and never off by a mile as far as I know. So I had this, and like I said, it was a 3-year-old technology when I got it. I used it for a year and a half maybe, and then I started to notice its GPS lifespan starting to dwindle. I wasn't getting as long out of it. It still lasts longer than a standard smartwatch, but I thought, you know what, now's the time to make the move, and I wound up getting the Venue 2. I could have gone with a higher, more rugged, more active style watch, but that had given me no issues, the Vivoactive, and this is built a little bit better. So I mean, with all the hiking I've done, I mean, the screen's dirty, but that Gorilla Glass 3 is pretty strong. Let me clean it real quick. But yeah, I mean, there's no scratches, there's no scuffs, and it's not like I remember I'm wearing it half the time. So this has a little bit more smart feature to it, where I can reply to texts with like there's no keyboard on it, but I can reply to texts. I've downloaded an app to it, and I'll show you here. It's called Hike 2 Plus on the top there, and that's what I use for all my tracking. And it won't pull GPS in the house, at least not quickly, so I'm not even gonna bother bringing it up. But it gives, you can adjust the screens. I think you get 3 or 4. Oh, actually, there's probably like 7 screens on that. That's my kayaking app. It only has 3 or 4. But yeah, there's a bunch of screens that I can set up and configure with the data that I want, and I can rearrange those. So on the main, I have my mileage, my moving time, my total time, my altitude, my heart rate, and then as I scroll through, I can actually see a track. It won't show me a map, it'll show me a track of where I've gone. So if I'm doing a big loop, I know if I'm heading in the right direction. If I need to turn back, I can use this to breadcrumb, which is just using your existing track to trace back. I can set waypoints with this. I can load waypoints with this. It will give me sunrise and sunset times. It will give me weather from the last time it pulled from the phone, and that's all in that app as I'm hiking. So if you're watching a video and you see me kind of scrolling through, that's how much information I can pull just from that one little app on my watch. And I can see elevation gain, I can see my speed, I can see all of this information, and it's right on my wrist, and it's got its own GPS, meaning if my phone dies or something happens, I don't have to worry about it. I can still track and find my way in and out of places if I need it with the compass or anything like that. As far as the battery life on this goes, what they say on the website, I would agree with. 11 days, yeah, I get 11 days out of my system watch mode. I haven't charged this since Saturday. It's now Wednesday, and I used it to track. No, oh my God, when did I charge this last? I think the last time I charged it was not this past Saturday, the Saturday before, or the Sunday before, whatever day I went and I did that Lackawanna Lake hike is when I charged it. I tracked that. It's sat all week. I tracked a short hike on Sunday. It was only like 3 miles, 3.2 miles, something like that. And it's sat since then, and I still have 30, no, what's my battery? 58%. 58%. And then the little green bar at the bottom I have turned on, so it shows me like a quick, like I know if it's below the seconds, it's at 50%. So it's at 58%. That was 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11 days ago, and I've used it twice as a tracker. Now it hasn't been pulling sensor data, so I don't turn this off when I'm not using it. I just let it go. But when it's on your wrist, those sensors turn on a lot. There we go. And they will be pulling information from you. Now, if it doesn't detect anything, it shuts those sensors off until it will do like an occasional pulse, and it'll turn it back on. So if you're not wearing it, it'll last even longer. So yeah, I'm going on 11 days right now, using it twice. I'm still at 58%. I can't guarantee that's going to be for everybody, but maybe I just got a really good one. But I'm really, really impressed with this. So, is it for you though? I mean, if you don't like watches, no. If you're looking for like really advanced smartwatch like an Apple Watch or a Pixel Watch or a Galaxy Watch or whatever. This isn't it. This doesn't run Android. It doesn't run. Well, got text messages going on here. I'll turn that away from the screen. It doesn't have all that stuff, but it's got enough smart features. Like I can see these text messages coming in, and I can do a basic reply to them. When a phone call comes in, I can swipe up on the screen and answer the phone. Now, if I'm wearing headphones, I don't listen to music off of this, but sometimes I listen to music or podcasts or audiobooks or whatever from my phone. And if I got the headphones in, I can just swipe up. I don't have to pull the phone. It tells me who's calling, and I can just answer it right from there. So and I can do calendar stuff, and I can run a calculator on it, and I can do all that stuff that I might need to do quickly from here. What are the prices on these right now? Does it list it? Yeah, so the Venue 2, I think, has been discontinued. Yes, they're at the Venue 3 now. So the Venue 3 is $400. $399 at this size. It looks very similar. I'll put up a screenshot so you can see it. Looks very similar. They got a couple different variants of it. And let's see what the specs, if they've up to 14 days battery life. Display size is a little bit bigger. Pixel density is a little bit bigger. Let's look at the battery times. Smartwatch mode up to 14 days or 5 days with an always on display. I turn the always on display off on mine, so I gotta lift my arm up to look at it. So 14 days. Battery saver smartwatch mode up to 26 days. GPS only mode 26 hours. All systems up to 20 hours, so smartwatch and GPS. And then all systems, so watch, I don't know why they word it like this, watch, GPS, and music up to 11 hours. Other than that, it's very similar. So it's got a better battery in it. It's slightly different size, but it's pretty much the same watch. So I don't think I paid $400 for this. I think I paid $300 for it. I might have gotten it on sale. I don't remember, but they haven't actually. It's on sale. It's $449 normally, but maybe I got mine on Amazon. I got a deal on it. I don't remember. I know I didn't pay that much for it, but for a GPS unit and a watch and all these other things, they last a long time. So that's my main GPS. That's how I track. I do still use my phone for map purposes, and that's, well, I'm using the phone that I have it on there, so I can't show you, but I use a service called Maprika. I think it was designed for ski trails, but it works great for hiking, where you can make your own maps and then overlay GPS coordinates on it. And maybe if you guys want, let me know. I'll do a video on that at some point and show you how that works. And then what I do is I make those maps and then I share them with the Maprika service, so anybody can go in and download the maps that I'm using. And then in the descriptions, I always put KZO, or recently I've started putting KZO as the first thing in there. So when I gotta re-download my maps, I know which ones are mine. So that is a look at my GPS situation, what I use, why I got to that point. Hopefully this answers some questions for you. And if you're thinking about getting a watch or you're thinking about getting a GPS, maybe my train of thought, as erratic as it is sometimes, helps you make a decision. And if you still have questions, ask questions in the comments. I'm always more than happy to answer anything I can. And if I get enough of the same questions, or this just turns out as complete garbage, I'll do another video. Just let me know. But that's going to do it for me for this one. I hope this helped you out. I got a bunch of stuff to take care of in the next less than 24 hours to get ready for something, and then I will see you in the next.